Can everyone hear me? Must we hear me? Ugh. Does this look like a good... Should I crop Yuna out of this? Maybe I should crop Yuna out of this. Hello, folks. We'll give it a minute. Let folks hop in. Let's see. What does it look like if I... Oh, that's the wrong thing, for one. That's my frame, not my camera. What will we get to today? Horrors. Terrible horrors. What if I do that? Oops. I didn't mean to do that. Where was it? It was like right there? That's fine. It doesn't have to be a perfect square. Hello, Caffeine. Hello, Skull Skills. Hello, Jeff. Smaller crowd today, because it is Fanfic Friday, which is a niche delicacy, a smaller interest. I did say I was going to do it later tonight, so I hope folks didn't, like, set an alarm or something, but I finished work early, and I was like, maybe I should go ahead and stream, and then maybe we'll do more later or something, you know? Yes, hello, welcome to the horrors. It has been a long time since we've done this. For those that don't know, Fanfic Friday is something I started years ago, because of a charity stream, I think, where I read fanfic I wrote as a child for you to suffer, for me to suffer, for us all to suffer. And along with it are some really beautiful works of art, a collage of which is now present here on the main page. We've read a lot of fic. We're in the middle of a Silent Hill 4 series, ironically enough, given what I've been playing lately. We are in the middle of reading a Silent Hill 4 fanfic. I will catch folks up a little bit on what and why. Why. It was a rewrite of Silent Hill 4 where Henry and Walter get gay. Because, yeah, of course you do. Basically, it goes from the 21 Sacraments ending, kind of changes that ending a little bit, and adds some plot there. They're all ghosts living in the apartment now, like Friends, but with monsters. And we are continuing that story today with there's 3 chapters left. It did not get finished. Like many of my stories as a teenager, it is not done. Hello, folks popping in. So we're reading the 3 chapters. We're reading 1 today. We'll have 2 more, and then this story will be finished. Oh, alas, alas. But there's still so many other things to read and torture ourselves with. Boy, it's a toughie. This one's a toughie. The Silent Hill 4 fanfic isn't all that bad. Just you wait. I had to reread some of it this morning. We aren't reading... We'll just get to it. I'm really unhappy with myself. I actually wrote this recently enough that I remember writing it. It was 2010. Oh no, 2010. I'm way older than I wanted. I'm 17 writing this. Oh, no wonder it was horny. Oh no, 2010. Also, it was published October 31st. It was a Halloween special, apparently. So, oh boy, let me get the slideshow open, and then we will get started. Oh, do we have to? If you guys really liked me, you wouldn't make me do this. You really wouldn't. But I guess we're here. All right. I guess we gotta do this. You seem oddly pensive today. Flick, a little burst of flame. Click, the flame died, swallowed back up into the silver sarcophagus. Flick, with a vengeance it returned, dancing and swirling in the darkness. Alive and free, but only as long as she willed it. We're already very pretentious. Power, control, life and death. Master? This is... Oh my god, is this when I got into Hellsing? Oh my god, I have unlocked... This is just Integra and Alucard. I'm crying already. I'm very embarrassed. Oh, this one. I think this one's worse because it's, like, mature enough that it sounds like real writing, but still immature enough that it bothers me. Oh my god. Master? Her eyes lingered on the flame a little longer before she flipped the lighter closed again. Even after the fire vanished, she focused on the silver thing in her hand, the fire starter, her eyes bright in the dark. Heather Mason only glanced up at her partner when he reached over and kicked her with one of his long legs. "What's with you? Where'd the boss disappear to?" "She's boss? What? A huff. "I'm really not in the mood today." The woman grimaced angrily and thrust her lighter into her jean pocket. Jean pocket? She's only wearing one jean? She's wearing a single jean? She didn't carry it for smoking. She quit that long ago and would never start again. I already had very strong feelings. Oh, baby girl. She just needed something to do with her hands. The darkness in the room didn't bother either occupant. Both could see fine, even though one has a mask for her face. The girl staring blankly at the ceiling now, arms stretched out across the back of the couch, legs crossed, the other sitting across from her staring intently at her face. A smirk and a chuckle lit up the dark male's features. How does he smirk? Wait. I've discovered a problem. How does he smirk? His eyes. Okay, I must be, okay, wait, because he don't have eyes. I think I was pretending they had, I just look at the chat and see the word monster fucker in caps. Listen, this is long-established Muse lore from the time of my youngest years. Shishomaru and Alucard were some of my earliest crushes, so yes, big monster fucker. I guess he must have a human form in this, because he has eyeballs. His eyes flashing in the dark. What, gonna ignore me now? The woman grunted and her head fell back further. She's like that. Shut up. That prompted more laughter from the other as he let his body fall back against the couch with an oomph. Still such a brat after all these years. Finally, her head lifted, but only so she could prove his point by sticking her tongue out at him. Then her head fell back down. A clunk was heard, and the owl soon following proved she'd dropped her head back too hard. Oh, Jesus. You're an idiot. Bite me. Those two words sent a shift through the air. A heavy-ing. The word heavy, and then there's a dash, and it says ing, like I was trying to make it a verb. Like something heady and thick had settled in the room. A long tongue curved over the sly smirk of the man, and his grin revealed rows of sharp teeth. "May I?" There was a pause. The girl shrugged her shoulders, head bobbing between them. What, so like... I am trying really hard to write like a serious adult writer, so I am over-describing everything, and it all sounds so weird. Maybe later. The grin faded to a content smirk as the beast masquerading as a man was content to wait. Yeah, okay, so he is pretending to be a guy right now. We can't read the next scene. We can't read. I'm sorry? Let me slideshow and you'll understand. We'll just, how do I... Oh, that's what it's doing. Okay. That's, if you wanted to know what, yeah, that's what's happening, in case you were curious. The long tongue and sharp teeth make sense, but the eyes, yeah, I think this story has, like, they can look human if they wanna. I'm pretty sure that's gonna come up later. I remember this happening now. We can't read the next scene. I really was hoping that was not in this. You ain't missing anything. It's literally just smut. Walter's the top, of course. And there's a lot of that name. And, like a literal sentence of, oh. So we're just gonna leave them to that. Can't read that on YouTube. Don't want to be banned for the children. Oh, man. It's not really good anyway. This is the first series I remember writing this. Well, no, we talked about it. There was a Vincent Cloud story first. So that was my first time writing that, but this may have been my second. So we'll just mosey on past that. We'll just move past that. No, we're missing everything. Was I shipping Heather and Volteal? The monster fucker. That's been established. So yes. Walter was still asleep when Henry woke the next morning, curled into Henry's side. I can't stop crying. I can't stop crying. Apparently it's been so long since we've done this, my immunity to cringe is gone. Curled into Henry's side, hands folded awkwardly in front of his face. So he's sleeping like this, I guess. It was endearing and a joy to wake to. It's a joy to wake to, creating an immediate smile on the younger man's face. Henry sat up slowly, easily, as to not wake the other, and tiptoed from the room. Literal tiptoes. In the kitchen, he took out a mug and filled it with coffee and cream before sneaking out of the room into the hall, still in pajamas. The door fell shut quietly behind him, and Henry, cradling his warm mug, walked towards the end of the hall. "Good morning, Henry," came Sharon's soft greeting as he walked past the old woman. He nodded in reply before moving toward Eileen's door. He rapped on the door twice. Rapped, okay. Heard a Hispanic accent chime. That's a really awkward way of trying to say it's Cynthia. Just say you heard Cynthia. "Come in," and smiled, opening the door. "Hey," Eileen sat up and grinned when she saw him rushing towards the door. "Fancy seeing you here. I've used the door 5 times in the last few sentences." A laugh from the other woman kept Henry from replying. "Oh, no. I'm just surprised he's up this early. I'm sure Walter kept him up real late." This is going to keep me up real late. Cynthia giggled at her joke, whilst Henry threw her a half-hearted glare. It was then, as the playful glare died and his eyes moved to the table, that he noticed the new addition to the room. Little Walter was sitting on the floor, putting a puzzle together on the table, and there was a little girl beside him. She was older than him by a few years, but only slightly taller, with dark hair curled into a bob and a cute little blue dress with kittens on the front. When Walter looked up and grinned at Henry, the girl turned and looked at him with a curious frown. "Who's the girl?" Henry asked as Eileen let him go. Said girl leapt to her feet and ran over to him, now smiling. "Hi!" The cheerful voice fluttered with happiness like butterflies in spring. "My name is Cheryl. What's yours?" The girl blinked. "Is he okay?" Eileen's hand came onto his shoulder and gave a nervous laugh. "He's all right. He's just shy." The girl shrugged and then turned back to little Walter to continue playing. Eileen looked to Henry, whispering concern. "You all right?" He nodded, mouth dry. "Yeah, don't know what that was. Where'd she come from?" Shrugging, Eileen glanced back. "I think she's another ghost like us. Walter found her. Little Walt." Henry looked back at the 2 children and shuddered. What felt wrong here? Something. The man didn't realize he'd been backing away until he hit the door. "You're really pale. Are you okay?" Eileen put a motherly hand to his face, but he nodded and gently pushed her arm away. "Just fresh air," he muttered incoherently, pulling her door open and escaping into the hall. It slammed shut behind him and he felt free, but still very disturbed. Cheryl, that was the girl's name. She didn't seem dangerous or vicious. There was just something off-putting about her, just like the blonde girl. Right, didn't we might have met Heather at the end of the last chapter that we read 2 years ago? I don't remember, but I feel like this is the case. Henry blinked, putting 2 and 2 together. The blonde girl's name was Cheryl, too. I apparently can't read. The 2 girls didn't look the same, but then neither did little and big Walter. Was this Cheryl a young version of the blonde Cheryl? Narrowing his eyes, Henry moved down the door. From the door. I need to clean my glasses. Give me a moment. Maybe then I'll be able to see. I don't know why I'm looking up to read chat. Okay. Narrowing his eyes, Henry moved from the door and further down the hall, letting the thoughts circulate in his mind. He'd never really heard from the older Cheryl again after the incident. and until that moment he'd completely forgotten about her. Would he ever hear from her again? His musings kept him from hearing the pitter-patter of little footsteps behind him. "Hello again." Shocked, Henry spun round, spilling hot coffee over his hand. He bit back a curse and looked to see little Cheryl looking up at him innocently, hands behind her back. Hello," the little girl winced. "Sorry if I scared you. You're really shy, huh?" Not knowing what to say, Henry stuck with nodding. The girl came closer. "That's okay. I used to be really shy, too." She stood, little body swaying back and forth, staring up at him. Color began to fill his cheeks. Could have just said he blushed. This is my overwriting era. This is my era of too much verbiage. "Did you need something?" She shook her head. "Nope, just wanted to talk. You know, death's not the end of everything." Okay. The sudden shift in conversation took him for a loop. "What?" Cheryl shrugged. "Nothing ever ends. Not really. It stops and starts again. Death isn't the real end. The world keeps moving." Her eyes drifted down to the floor, filled with heaviness and a wisdom someone her age should not possess. "I mean, I've died a lot of times, and here I am, still moving." Henry's eyes were wide as he stared at the cute little girl, admitting to having died multiple times. What in the world could she mean? The red blush faded to a pale pallor as Henry knelt to her level. "How many times?" She looked up at his eyes and smiled big. "Doesn't matter. We got off topic. I'm supposed to tell you about your new friend." The elder scrunched his eyes and cocked an eyebrow. "Friend?" This conversation had as much linear thought as an ADHD child on crack. Oh, 2000s era humor. We did not miss you because you were not funny. Oh. Cheryl came closer, leaned into his ear and whispered, "Someone new will arrive at South Ashfield Heights today. He's very sad, and he's going to die." A shot of lightning sped down. Sped down? Sped down? Not normally how you'd phrase that. A shot of lightning sped down Henry's spine, and the coffee was waving like stormy seawater because of his trembling hands. "You can't stop it, but you have to help him. Meet this new sad person and go with him when he leaves." "Why?" Mouth dry, Henry let the word out like a raspy breath, but Cheryl said nothing. She leaned away and smiled. "It'll be okay." Then she turned and raced down the hall, disappearing into Eileen's apartment like nothing had happened. Henry remained crouching, staring after her. A new tenant at the apartments, and he was going to die. Can't stop it. Slowly, Henry came to his feet, swarmed by confusions and question no one could answer. At least, no one here. There was a clunk as his mug fell from his hands, coffee pouring across the floor, but he didn't remember it as he turned and blindly rushed down the hall. Was there no end to the madness here? No peace in death? Stop making me laugh by repeating me to myself, Lobsel. Only more death to come, and he couldn't stop it. Well, he'd be damned if some little girl's prophecy would keep him from trying to end the senseless violence. Yes, he would greet this new arrival, and he would keep him alive no matter what it took. This is all so much. Little me. If only there was a little me I could talk to and ask some questions. Oh boy. Somewhere in darkness, a light flickered again. This time it stayed open, flames swaying in the dark, trying to light up the dismally dark room. See, dark. It was an impossible feat. Fire might be strong, but this fire was so little, in the face of so many shadows which easily swallowed up its feeble warmth. No, this tiny light was not enough to light up this darkness. Nothing could light up this darkness. Heather knew this, staring at the light, reflecting on hope and how many times it could be squashed before it died forever. Heather? Her eyes snapped up. How many times do I have to tell you to stop calling me that? The thing across from her chuckled. I will always call you that. It's your name. The woman/girl, not quite either, but somehow both, snapped the lighter shut violently, but her anger features Her anger features could still be seen. Furrowed brow, mouth thin and taut, eyes burning. My name is Cheryl. It was Cheryl. You're not that innocent little girl anymore. The thing stood, walking the short distance to her before kneeling down at her feet, head just above her thighs, shoulders touching her knees. This is some heavy Alucard imagery here. You're tainted, and your name is too. A hand light ran outside the left thigh, barely touching the skin, tentatively traveling upwards. I love it. She smacked the hand away, but did not move to make him stand. Instead, Heather Cheryl glared down at him and said nothing. All her words shone through her wicked eyes. The thing understood, and it smiled. You know, you didn't taint me, so don't be proud like you brought me down to your level. Her hands reached out slowly, their aim precarious, as if she wasn't sure where to move them. Heather settled on placing them on his shoulders. I was screwed up long before I met you. Oh my God. A dark, rough laugh revealed sharp teeth. Oh, I know, my goddess, I know. His eyes left her face, looking down between her thighs, but not really focused at all, as if it was lost in a feeling, a desire. I know. What? His head fell, not as if he'd moved it, but as if he'd suddenly gone unconscious and his neck gave out. The cringe got him and he just passed the fuck out. His head caressed, wait, so then he passes out, and then his head caressed her thighs. Like this. I'm trying so hard to be mature, and like, y'all, this is gonna kill me. They remained in the dark. This is gonna kill me so bad. I don't know, this one might be too much. This one might be so much. Oh my God. Okay. Oh, okay. Henry opened the door to the main hall of the apartment building carefully, wincing as the heavy door creaked with every little moment. He was trying to be discreet, trying and failing. With a sigh, he simply threw it open and stormed out into the hall. What was the point? What was the point of that? Are they making out? I'm not sure what's happening. I'm not sure what's happening either. Like, I think it was my attempt as a kid to be very mysterious and dramatic. They're just sitting in a room somewhere, talking randomly, being a little horny and messing with a lighter. The lighter being an obvious metaphor for, like, light and darkness. Oh no, small light, big darkness. Metaphor. What if we read this in paragraph installments? How about we just continue from here next time? It was nice looking again. The stairs fully carpeted, the walls furnished and wood polished. Henry let his hand slide against the rail as he walked down the stairs 2 at a time. His mind was still reeling with thoughts, confused as to what this was all about. Was there still a real world out there somewhere? A place where Ashfield Heights was still an apartment building with rooms to rent, where people lived out their lives, people he had known for years, good and bad. Well, he hadn't really known them, but he had known of them. It's been a while since you've been to a stream. How's everyone doing today? Very bad. You chose a bad stream to show up for, because it's killing me. This is Fanfic Friday, for those joining us who don't know, a series I used to do a long time ago, basically during COVID, when we all needed a good laugh at my expense. I wrote these stories when I was a teenager, and it shows. This is my Silent Hill 4 gay romance, so just get on board and deal with it. Lost in thoughts, Henry didn't notice the slight changes in the room as he came to the last stairwell. By the time his foot touched bottom, he did notice, head flying up. People were in the room, most of them familiar faces from a life he'd left long behind. Police tape lined the doors to the third-floor hall, and concerned families were grouped together, holding one another. His head flew. Why does his head keep flying? Why is it flying? His head flew to the right, looking out the window. It was night, with the lights of sirens brightening the sky. Crowds of people gathered between police lines. What was this? What was going on? "Come on, people, move out of the way." A gruff voice behind him caused Henry to spin, turning to look up at a cop on the stairs. He was walking down them, leading a group of paramedics holding a stretcher. "Don't you have any respect for the dead? Come on, move it." The crowds of apartment tenants finally parted, allowing the doctors carrying the stretcher. They aren't doctors. They are paramedics. I did just say that. Allowing the doctors to carry the stretcher, covered by a pale white sheet stained with blood. Henry's eyes widened as he realized what it was. Even as his theory was proven correct by a gust of wind through the door, the sheets moved. It was his body. Pale, thin, and covered with little scrapes and bruises from his fights with the monsters and Walter. The numbers were there, bleeding through his shirt and the sheet. 21121. Without thinking, Henry's hand drifted up to his chest, where they were hidden beneath his shirt. Quickly, a doctor's hand snatched the sheet back up, even as someone in the room let out an agonized sob. Henry winced. He knew no one would really mourn him, but to see something like that. He heard a sigh nearby and glanced up, surprised to see a heavy-lidded gaze following the stretcher. Frank Sunderland watched the doctors leave with a sad groan. Never does stop around here. Never does, that death. Just keeps moving. I will give myself credit. That does kind of sound like something Frank would say. He shook his head in that absent-minded way he always did, then turned and began to leave as if all the doctors and police were already gone. Through the window, the blue and white light continued to filter, blinding and frightening, as trembling families slowly returned to their homes. Outside, the mob slowly drifted away, fearful and tired, suspicious of everyone. Someone out there was killing people. A serial murderer. Henry wished he could tell them it was all over. That was behind them now. Everyone who was supposed to die was already dead. As the people cleared the area, Henry noticed there was one who lingered. One who stood staring at the building from behind the police line. This one caught his eye. He seemed the type who was so tired, so exhausted he might tip over. But he was much too strong for that, so instead of sagging his shoulders, he squared them off and fought exhaustion. Sleep-deprived, food-deprived. How does he tell this? How does he know this from... The man was big but gaunt, skin thinning and pale, bags beneath his eyes. A big green jacket sat on his shoulders, making him seem bigger. He was at least 6 foot, on par with Walter. Blonde hair covered his head, but it was short, with bangs falling onto his forehead. He seemed so sad. Henry didn't notice he was walking out of the apartment complex towards the man until he was already halfway to him. No one saw him. No one could. The stranger kept staring at the complex with fixation, almost horror, eyes not focused, like he was seeing something else in its place. Henry's brow furrowed. Who was this person? The man lowered his eyes, resigned to something, to some great burden on his chest, mouth partially open. Lost and hopeless, the man sighed before ducking down under the police tape. He was so big it looked ridiculous, but something about the man told Henry he would rather bend and submit than pick himself up and step over. Now we're super analyzing the way people walk under police tape. Okay. The stranger had such a strong walk for such a tired, weak face. He had power in him, but was so tired of using it, like a soldier who had seen too much war. Henry followed him, fascinated, the words of the little girl echoing in his ears. A new friend, he's so sad. Followed the stranger through the front door, towards the first floor hall. He walked with purpose, like he knew the apartment better than anything, before turning and stopping before the superintendent's door. There he hesitated, the lost look returning. The man was such a contradiction, so strong, so weak, so sure and so unsure. Henry watched as his hand trembled when he knocked twice. Coming, coming, came Frank's voice from within. At the voice, the stranger breathed in sharply, but he kept his eyes open. Some kind of strength was in them. Have I said the word strength enough? It wasn't the strength of someone ready to fight. It was different. The glory of someone brave enough to submit. Why am I talking about the... Strong enough to kneel and accept his fate for the better of everyone, for the better of everyone. A kind of strength Henry had once relied on to turn... Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. To turn his gun on himself and save Walter Sullivan. Enough to allow him to take his own life, to save the man he loved. This stranger had that same lack of concern for his own well-being in him, so I was trying to do a comparison. Yeah, there's cold in Fanfic Friday. This is a lot. I could see what I was doing. I could see the young writer wheel spinning. It's bad, but I see the intent. There was thought here. Who was this man? The door opened and Frank appeared, looking out into the hallway confused for a moment before his whole body froze and his eyes widened. Why wouldn't I just say he froze? Why? Henry watched, fascinated, as the two people looked at each other, and he took the time to notice the similarities in the face, the long noses, wide foreheads, the eyes. Dad. The older said nothing, merely wrenched his door open and dragged his son into a powerful embrace. It shocked Henry how much strength this usually slow old man had suddenly, holding on to his son for dear life before finally choking out one word. James! A sob mixed into the name, but Henry understood. James Sunderland. He's very sad. He's going to die and you can't save him. Oh no. Oh no. The next sentence is a lot. The next sentence is a whole lot. Oh, this whole thing is a whole lot. Have we considered my split it in half idea again? Has anybody, we vote on that? Who's that Pokemon? It's James! His moves are Defense Curl, Disable, Sing, and Surf, and his ability is Moxie. If anyone understands those jokes, you're nerds. There we go. Warmth blanketed him and surrounded him from all sides. Warmth and the smell of masculinity, of sexuality, the scent of his lover left behind. I'm gonna have to ask folks, just don't call me girl. I'm a grown human being. I'd prefer you just call me Muse. Just not like an announcement or anything I've ever said, so nothing against you. Just, I don't like it. Slowly, Walter's eyes opened and fell upon the empty side of the bed. The scent of freshly brewed coffee enticed him to get out of bed, though. He would rather have waited for Henry's return in order to lay with him in it. But he'd grown fond of coffee since Henry addicted him to it. This is genuinely not it's just not. Basically, it's an OC. Basically. It's not. You could write. I've read some folks who have read some of the very, nasty, violent stuff in Silent Hill 4 that have made it actually, the characters. This is not that. I was very clearly not willing to do that. I just wanted to write about the universe because I was in love. I was obsessed with this game in high school. Still am. When he walked out into the kitchen, he was surprised to find no sign of Henry. Usually he was on his laptop, lounging on the couch, working in the early hours of the morning. Working on what? He's a ghost. Until Walter awoke and seduced him back into bed. He assumed then that Henry was at Eileen's. Oh, Jesus. But with senses... specially trained for his lover. No, I quit YouTube. I quit. His senses are specially He found the man was out sitting in the yard beneath a tree in front of the building with his spidey sense. Oh, God. Okay, and then there's words in italics because I did basically establish in many past chapters that Henry and Walter do have this, psychic link because of the murder thing and all that. So he psychic linked him, saying Henry. Henry had his knees pulled up to his chest, back against a familiar tree. It was the one he'd had Walter pose in front of as a boy. What do you know? There's some canonical historical information in this. That was a previous story. If you'd ask him when he was alive to point out which tree, he wouldn't have remembered, but now it was something that had flown out of his dormant mind and returned to him. It gave him comfort. Suddenly a breeze drifted over his mind. Oh God, no! I forgot. I wasn't just a monster fucker. I was really into, like, psychic shit. Oh, Jesus. A breeze drifted over his mind, caressed his skin. How? Smelling of Walter and safety, and Henry opened his mind to the other. He poured out all the things he'd learned these past hours, the little girl, James, his discomfort, his fear, his sadness. This is all a lot to just, like, drop on a reader that I don't think I've used previously in this story. This is clearly, again, just me wanting to write about these things and smushing these characters together like Barbie dolls. No matter if it made sense or not. In a blink of an instant, Walter was standing beside him for real, the mental connection even stronger. Henry. Nothing was even said. No, that is a word. He did say a word. Henry's a word. Nothing was even said before the blonde knelt and the other fell into his embrace, frowning heavily and set adrift in confusion. He scooted onto the other's thigh, then tucked his leg under the other leg, so the two were twisted up at each other. Okay, wait. He fell into Walter's embrace, while frowning heavily and set adrift in confusion. Then he scooted onto his thigh and tucked his leg under the other leg. Okay. Who is that girl? The brunette spat, knowing Walter knew more than he'd been letting on. Through the connection, he saw pictures of a burning house, the symbol of the church, a town overtaken by shadow. Let's just drop all that real fast. It is a long story, Walter whispered against the shell of his ear. It's a long story. I'd rather not tell you. You have enough nightmares as it is. Henry turned slightly, shoulder against the other's chest. I have no idea how these people are sitting. To look up at his eyes. I can't be kept in the dark, not if I'm involved. You're not. Well, I am now. Walter glared. Vehemence, I don't know if I spelled that right. Bared his teeth. I won't allow you to get involved. Forget that man. Forget Cheryl in that damned town. Henry sat up suddenly in the man's lap. Was he not already sitting? He sat up? What? Was he laying down with his legs? This is someone's pure fetish? I was a child. I was a weird 17-year-old child figuring shit out. Okay? And yes, this is clearly all the weird fever dream of a horny teenager that's into horror and doesn't know what else they're into. But they're figuring it out. Okay, where was I? What's so horrible about that place? I know the orphanage was centered there, but it is the source of everything, Henry. It's much worse than all else combined, don't you understand? Walter spat suddenly. Those men who tried to kill me and you were from that horrid cult born of that town. I wonder if there's any Alex Murphy. I have no idea if that exists. I know there's a lot. There was back in ye old days. I know that Harry and James was a thing, just because men in video game. And I know Douglas and Heather was a thing because characters in video game. And obviously all the monster fucking. And Walter and Henry was a thing. I think those are the big ones that I can remember. I have no idea if Downpour even has. I'm sure it does. It's been out for 10 years. Somebody's written, drawn, done something. Okay. Those men who tried... Oh, okay, I read that one. Frowning, a little put off by Walter's anger, he continued. Yes, but Henry, that town, it's... Walter tried to continue, growling under his breath. Why do I keep saying... this is weird. Remember the darkness you traveled through when fighting me. Henry nodded, wishing he didn't remember, as he shivered a little bit. Walter noticed it, and the hands on his hip bones squeezed... What is the position? His hip bones. All these different parts. This is like a Picasso. But what does that girl have to do with the town? Henry interrupted. Who is she? Everything. She and the town are one. And the town is just like that darkness you traveled, full of beasts and traps and the dead. It's horrifying, and I won't let you be dragged into it. But he didn't trust the girl completely. But she had helped them before. Walter heard his unsaid question and continued. I know it's confusing, but please trust me, Henry, and forget this. At that moment, Henry tore the mental connection down. Before it broke, Henry could feel Walter's hurt, like he was rejected, and it pained him to have caused it. But he didn't feel like sharing his thoughts right then. To comfort him, he raised his arms and wrapped them around Walter's shoulders and let his forehead rest against the others. You know, the Picasso is getting... But as for listening to what Walter said, he wouldn't. Because he couldn't forget that shimmer of anguish and the sliver of power that made it possible for James to fight the pain. He could see the sliver was fading and would soon be nothing. How would he fight the sadness then? No, Henry couldn't forget this James Sunderland. He had to help him. Somewhere out in the fog, there was a long, rusted pier stretching out over Toluca Lake. Monsters prowled its edges, and every movement let out a shriek of blood-soaked metal grating. These monsters, dogs with their heads split open, lizard-like beasts, hunched over and gurgling, seemed not to notice the person standing at the end of the pier. It was a lone figure, thin and petite, staring out over the water. I have no idea who or what that is supposed to be. Thanks, everyone, for listening. I should say no thank you. I should say why, and how dare you, and dear God. I need to rehydrate. Skipped the skin, gone right to the bones. Yeah, that was, well, Walter's known for that, ain't he? We saw his bone saw. For a teenager, this is quite good writing. I'm just so lost at the plot. Well, that's very generous and kind of you. It's a lot. And also, this is like part 7 of 9, so there's much you've missed that you can listen to in previous chapters if you have a strong enough stomach. It is quite a lot, and there's so much happening here. It's so much. The previous bits were a lot of my, expanding on Silent Hill 4, kind of playing with that universe. This was my attempt to start bringing other characters, Heather, James, wanting to, a Silent Hill multiverse. It was my Avengers crossover in the year 2010. Which, now that I think about it, was that the year Avengers happened? The door to Eileen's apartment was thrown open, and the owner was shocked to see Walter storm in. She stood to greet him, but he passed her by and walked straight over to Cheryl, who stood as he approached. Hello, she smiled, even as he glared venomously at her. Why him? The girl shook her head incredulously, a light chuckle on her lips. You know why. It could have been me. Cheryl looked up, something sharp in her eyes. You should get the something sharp out of your eyes. That's not good for your eyes. You should do something. Yeah, it could have, but you would do it out of love for Henry. Henry would do it out of the kindness of his heart. He's different, Walter, and you know it. What's going on? Cynthia interrupted, saying exactly what was on Eileen's mind. The two girls glanced at each other as they were ignored. Don't do this to him. He's seen quite enough. There must be others. The little girl nodded, then looked to Eileen. There are. Immediately, the brunette woman found her view obscured by Walter's back. Shocked, she tried to look around him to see Cheryl grinning. Not her. Giggling, the little girl shook her head. Don't you see? There are other kind-hearted ones, but Henry's the strongest. He might live. She wouldn't, not without him, Cheryl stated. Why I gotta put Eileen down? Maybe it's Eileen's time to be the protagonist of a horror video game. Maybe it's time for Eileen to face the horrors. Walter was suddenly gripping Eileen's hand so tight it hurt, but she didn't tell him to stop. We are not your tools. You above all should know how it feels to be used. The man spat suddenly, voice dark and laced with pain. Hate. A nod, lowered eyes, and the little girl turned away, looking at little Walter. The boy had been, for the most part, staring wide-eyed at his older self. I know, and I'm sorry, but it'll all work out in the end. You know I won't let anything happen. Walter's glare hardened. You know I can't let you do this. A smirk came over the girl's face. A battle, then. Silent Hill's strongest demons warring against each other. The gaze hardened further, but Cheryl only laughed, and then suddenly she was gone. Dun, dun, dun. Is Alessa there instead of Cheryl? So I think they're all, like, I don't know. I think I had it be little Cheryl because, like, the parallel to little Walter, but they're actually the same person because little Cheryl seems to know everything Heather does. Like, I don't know. Because, I mean, I keep using her to say, like, really creepy, weird, prophetic stuff, so clearly something's up, and I don't know. Oh, God. Okay. Do I need to go to the next picture? I think we need a next picture. Oh my god. I'm sorry. I forgot about that picture. My hair, why is my hair like expanding from the cringe? Is it just, I have very thick hair sometimes and it just goes poof. Oh, especially when I keep it up for a long time. When I take it back down, it's like it explodes. A week passed and everything went back to normal. But the tension in the apartments never wavered after that day. Walter was distant, even somewhat angry, and Henry knew why. He was using his powers to keep Cheryl out of Ashfield. Henry, meanwhile, was a bit torn. He was touched that Walter was so protective of him, and the others in a way, but he knew he had to help that man. Another effect of Walter's powers was Henry couldn't go back to the real world. He was separated from that strange man. I am just very, like, just announcing things that are happening. Instead of writing a story, I'm announcing it. Like, oh boy. Oh, man. James. Henry couldn't stop thinking of the sadness in his eyes. I know no synonyms for sadness. That's the only word I know. Brooding by the window in his apartment, Henry hardly heard Walter talking to him before fingers snapped in front of his face. He jumped. Henry, are you all right? The brunette glanced up and felt a wave of pity. Sweat was clinging to the man's body and his eyes were slightly glazed. Does he have the flu? The man was exhausted. Henry leapt to his feet and put a hand to his forehead. No fever. With a strong grip on his arm, Henry dragged him over to the kitchen, ignoring what he was saying in favor of grabbing a washcloth. He started to clean off the sweat on his neck and face when a strong hand caught his wrist. Henry. The tone was slightly ironic as Walter smirked at him. I'm fine. Still, the younger seemed concerned. As Walter chuckled and shook his head, I was worried about you. As he freed his wrist, Henry continued, drying Walter off. I'm fine. You've been at that window for an hour. Just thinking. Having finished, Henry lowered his hands. The look in Walter's eyes kept him frozen. Protective, possessive, afraid, and anxious. About what? Guiltily, Henry glanced downward. Henry! A hand tilted his chin back up. Please don't dwell on that girl or the newcomer. How can I not? The man said. A week's worth frustration coming free. How can I forget what she told me? That man's going to die and I could help him. I might be able to change it. Gritting his teeth, Walter snapped back. You can't. That's the point. He has to die, Henry, and you can't stop it. Then tell me why, he threw back. Why tell me it's going to happen if she didn't think I could somehow help, that I might make a difference? You don't understand the nature of her or that place. That's why you're thinking that. Slamming his hand on the counter, Walter let out a growl of rage. Henry jumped back in surprise. Walter hardly ever showed violence that way, not sense. Silent Hill does not change. It gives you hope only to destroy it. She would tell you that man will die, give you the hope you could save him only so you'll follow him and watch as he inevitably dies before you. Brow furrowed, Henry felt some pent-up anger of his own clench his muscles. Which ones, I don't know. Fists clenched, he said. Why? What's the point of that? In a second, Walter was right in his face. much. To destroy you. To rip you apart inside out. That's what she does. What that place does. Walter starts barking next. Oh my god. A rush of blood flew to Henry's face, and he thrust his arms out, felt them tremble as they met Walter's chest. He hardly had the strength to throw him back a few inches. He throw. Oh my god, this is about to get really juvenile. Oh no. You're just afraid of... Henry's mind searched frantically and latched onto something, a weapon to fight with. Are you jealous? Eyes flying into his hair. Walter shook his head and scowled. Jealous? Of me paying attention to that guy, James? You know his name, the other spat, and Henry felt triumph. See, you're jealous. I'm trying to help him, and all you see is me paying attention to a different tall blonde. You're being selfish. I don't... Okay, no, wait. Selfish, Walter bellowed, and the apartment shook. I'm being selfish. I'm trying to protect you. I don't need you to protect me, the other shouted. And then in italics it says, I need you to support me. But his mouth dried up when he tried to say it. Don't need me. Oh, really? Can you survive on your own? Suddenly, the enormous, bulky figure of Walter was right above him, and the two were someplace else. They weren't in the apartment anymore. Oh, this just kind of getting real. They were in a rusted building. The subway, the hospital. There was a bloodied axe in Henry's hand and a revolver in Walter's. Oh my god, I remember this. I actually kind of like this. Remember this? The blonde muttered in his ear. Can you fight like this again? I survived you, didn't I? Henry jumped back, angrier than he'd ever been in his life. But beneath it he felt other things he tried to ignore. Sadness, disappointment, fear. I can do it again. Deep maniacal laughter, and Henry was back in that place, running from shadows, listening to that echo of mirth coming from all around him. Don't fool yourself. You didn't survive me, Henry. You killed yourself. And this is suicide all over again. You'll be doomed if you set foot in that place. Bitter rage flew up his throat. I'm stronger than you give me credit for, bastard, Henry shouted. As if to prove it, Henry lifted his blade and prepared to use it, staring Walter down. This got to be a real serious argument real fast. Only these two could turn it into a fight with axes and guns. The blonde remained stoic, the gun in his lowered hand, eyes hidden by his hair. Henry, he muttered, his quiet voice betraying no emotion. The brunette began to feel anxious. Surely the man was pissed. Surely he would do something. Henry, you seem to have forgotten. Walter took a step closer. Henry remained still, not moving the axe. He would never actually use it on Walter, not now. He was bluffing. But something felt wrong. A shiver went up Henry's spine as Walter stepped closer. I suppose it's my fault. I've let you domesticate me. But you know what I really am, what I do. What are you doing? Walter stepped closer, but still Henry didn't step away. In fact, he lowered his axe, confused by this turn. That was his first mistake. Guard lowered, Walter easily batted the axe out of his hand, his other hand coming up and grabbing his collar. He pulled Henry up as the brunette stared at him wide-eyed, walking forward until Henry's bat hit the wall. When Walter leaned in to whisper into his ear, he thought nothing of it. I am a murderer. Cold steel pressed against his belly suddenly, and shock coursed through him as it pressed down on the very spot where he'd once shot himself. The wounded skin burned in pain as Walter pressed harder, smirking against his ear when Henry let out a choked gasp. Walter! The man tossed him to the side and he stumbled, falling beside his forgotten weapon. Immediately Walter began stalking towards him, the gun still raised. Come on, are you going to just sit there? Walter murmured, coming even closer as Henry realized something was very wrong, and he needed to make space between him and Walter quickly. Axe forgotten, he scooted away on the floor, staring up at the man. Walter kicked the axe toward him as he walked. Won't you fight me like we used to? I thought you said you were strong enough. If you can't stop me, how the hell would you survive Silent Hill? The gun raised and a shot was fired. Ah! Henry screamed, jumping as the Blair? The Blair? I don't know what a Blair is, but okay. Echoed, but the bullet flew by him and hit the wall. Henry jumped and bit his tongue as it went off again, hitting the wall on the other side of his head. What is this? Walter shouted. Huh? I thought you said you were strong. What are you doing? What the hell are you doing? Henry shot back. Walter! Another shot, and this time Henry merely flinched. Walter? The blonde came up to him, dragging him up by the collar. This time he flipped the gun around, pointed it at himself, and then forced Henry's hand onto it. The brunette gasped in horror as Walter stared him down. Don't you get it, Henry? Walter muttered quietly. I'm trying to kill you. If you don't stop me, you'll die, so kill me. Shaking in Walter's grip, the smaller man shook his head violently. No! It came out a pained gasp. What the hell was Walter thinking? Come on, do it! Then you'll be free to follow this James to the ends of the earth. Don't you have the strength? Walter seethed, anger rising in his eyes, but Henry could only rasp. No, I could never. Henry was on the verge of tears. Don't ever ask me to kill you, he finally screamed. Don't you see? I already chose to kill myself before killing you once. I could never kill you. That knowledge didn't lighten Walter's eyes or lower his hands. Don't you see? That's exactly why Silent Hill would kill you. Walter finally let him go, and the illusion disappeared. They were just in the apartment, Walter and Henry, standing a few feet apart. Henry's legs gave out, and he collapsed to the floor, hands shaking. Henry? Walter's voice finally lightened as he knelt by the man, but Henry visibly flinched when he did. Don't! Walter jumped at the pain laced in his voice. Henry, I didn't... Only then did the blonde realize how pale his lover was, how wide his eyes, his whole body trembling, and the weight of what he'd done settled in. Oh, God, Henry, don't! Henry almost shouted, frightened out of his mind. Walter stood tall, visibly shaken, fists clenched. God, Henry, I'm sorry, I didn't mean... Slowly, Henry glanced up and felt his heart tear at the agonized face above his, the pain. But when he saw Walter's sadness, he could see in his mind the emotionless glare from a moment before, the metal pressing into his skin. Just go, Henry whispered, and the shock and pain flew through Walter's eyes. Henry ignored it. I need to be alone. Walter stood, staring. Then his eyes grew emotionless, blank. He vanished into thin air. But it wasn't like he'd just vanished, like he'd teleported away. Henry suddenly felt the mental connection, that shared part of his soul where Walter always was just gone. In an instant he was alone, alone in the room, alone in his head. Walter was gone. Not just from the room. He'd vanished from the earth. Wow, that got pretty tight. That got pretty intense. Yeah. I mean, the whole setup and everything building up to it was really cringe and poorly written. But I liked the idea there. You're writing a character, two characters that have a very complex past, violent past, and then it comes back up in the romance in a fucked up way, and it screws with them both, and they scare each other, and it fucks up, and they are fucked up now. It's all fucked up. You know? Pretty bad. Yeah, I remember that. I think that was the whole thing I was writing up to. I guess I was saying earlier Walter felt like an OC, and I wasn't, like, writing him the way he was in the game, and I think maybe at this point in the story, I was old enough, getting more mature, realizing, and I was, like, trying to deal with that, make it more violent. Out of curiosity, I want to know when I started this series. Oh, God, we have so much more to read. How long have we been? An hour? That might be a good place to stop, because this story is so much longer than the other ones. This is really long. When did this story get written? I'm on my fanfiction.net account. Ooh, man. It's very much Hannibal and Will. I've been saying that. I wrote it years before Hannibal and Will were a thing. I invented the idea. They can send me a check in the mail. It's good. It's all good. Let's see. I wrote the very first part of this Henry Walter story. Oh, no, 2010. I wrote all this in a couple of months, so that was pretty quick. Let's see here. What's my oldest year on this account? When did I start using it? 2006. Yep, that sounds about right. I think that is where we'll call this story, since it's a good stopping point, and this is really long compared to other things we've read. But thank you all for joining me. I saw folks earlier talking about crossovers. We can talk about crossovers. I'm trying to think of it. Growing up, I remember Hogwarts crossovers were a big thing. Not necessarily Harry Potter so much as, like, putting characters into Hogwarts. Like, the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher is somebody weird and random. There was, my favorite one, I think, was Yu Yu Hakusho. They made Kurama from Yu Yu Hakusho the teacher at Hogwarts. There were a lot of those fun back in the day. Years before all that shit got nasty, and Hogwarts, Harry Potter's way overblown anyway now because it gets so bloated. Even before all the shit hit the fan, like 10 years ago, it was so bloated you couldn't read anything anymore. I can't even find the stuff I read as a kid, which is a shame, but I don't know. I can't remember. Unfortunately for me, there was an era on fanfic.net where there was a privacy scare where they like tried to scare you into like anybody can see your shit, see your fave, see. So I went through and deleted all my favorites on fanfic.net. I can't like find any of the stories I grew up writing, which is sad because I think it'd be interesting to see what I was reading and what I was going through. There was somebody crossed over Naruto and Final Fantasy VII because there's that whole part in Naruto where Orochimaru summons, what's his face, the fourth Hokage, or he tried to and it didn't work. So they just replaced him with Cloud. That was funny. That was a good one. Crossovers can be really fun when they're done right. And I feel like the secret to it is it has to have a thing, a hook, like a reason the crossover makes a lot of sense or is just interesting somehow. Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining us. I might stream more. I don't know. It's already 4:30 and I've read a lot, so my voice might be really tired today. We'll definitely stream tomorrow. Like, I really want to play more horror games. For real, for real. Maybe not tonight because my voice is going to be very tired. Still recovering. I actually went to a heart doctor this week and surprised me when I heard that, oh yeah, maybe this is part of your problem. Like, oh, thanks. I needed more problems. But it's very mild, and I'm doing very well, and I'm on medication, so no worries. Very glad folks have enjoyed this one. This one was a hoot. This one was a lot, and it's only going to get a lot from here. If we divide it up like this, there's at least going to be 4 more, I think, because there's this story, and it's 20,000 words-ish. And then what's the other one? The next one's 8,000. So 26,000. So 35,000. We've read, so 3 more maybe readings for this story. And then we'll have our choice of what we want to move on to. There is a 7-chapter Optimus Prime / human being story I wrote. There's the enormously, speaking of crossovers, the 50-chapter Kingdom Hearts story I wrote in 2013. Oh no, I was going to say that's way too late. No, because I wrote that in 2006. I was 13. It's the worst thing. It's the worst thing. It's gonna be the most painful worst thing. It's there. It's one of the things we could read. Those are the 2 big ones. There's my weird Final Fantasy 13 crossover. There's the Kingdom Hearts one-shots where I wrote romance stories about each member of the Organization 13. We read the first one about Xemnas, so if you want to catch up on that lore, you can listen to that one. It's a hot mess. But there's one for everybody in that story. There is a Mewtwo / Pokemon trainer. Listen. Mewtwo in that movie had Yami Yugi's voice, and I blame him. And also he was psychic, and as we saw today, that's apparently a thing I had going on back then. And not right now, definitely not right now. Let's see what else. I think those are the big ones. Yeah, Kingdom Hearts, a lot of Kingdom Hearts options. Pokemon, Transformers, a Final Fantasy one-shot, and I think that's everything I mentioned. I think that's everything. Yeah, that's it. And that sounds like not much compared to all that we've read over the years, but literally the Kingdom Hearts story is a 3-part series, each of which has about 100,000 words in it. So, and the Pokemon story, there's actually 2 versions of it, because I wrote it when I was very little, like 12, 13, 14 or something, and then I rewrote it as an older person. How old was I when I rewrote it? And actually, I posted it on my AL3, so that says it's at least post-college, so that one might not actually be the worst. That one actually might be slight quality. That would be the first college-era one we've read. I haven't even mentioned my college era. Oh, that's right. I wrote an entire... All right, let's go to my AO3. We've only been on my fanfic.net account, which was high school and middle school. And then AO3, I've posted I've been using it for years. Let's see what fandoms we have. We got we got a lot of Kingdom Hearts. Some of this stuff, it wouldn't probably be something we'd read for this, because I would hope things I've written in the last couple years aren't that cringe, aren't that bad. But if we go back to college, I bet we will find some cringe. A lot of Star Trek back then, Dragon Age, some Lord of the Rings, but a lot of this stuff we would probably have to pick and choose if we're looking for cringe. And I mean, if folks just want to listen to more fanfic, I'm always up for that too. But we want to keep the cringe train going and enjoy that shit. Let's go back to the last page of my fic. Let's see what's last. The oldest thing on here. Yeah, I think it's going to be the Star Trek. When I got to college, I really got into Star Trek. That's when I first watched the original show. Fell in love with it. Oh, there is one Harry Potter story. Severus Snape / Sirius Black. That's a high school story we could read. Maybe after the Silent Hill one, we'll take a little break and just read some one-shots, get some one-shots done, since we've read a long story. And that'll let people who've never, like, listened in catch up and listen to some stuff. I'll have to actually... Oh, yeah, I got a Crisis Core story. Zach Angeal. Let's see. Out of curiosity. I know I'm just dragging, but I'm just thinking out loud. I should share some of the stuff that folks... I got some Yuri. Oh no, I think that's actually just porno. Yeah, I wrote some of that. Eileen / Cynthia. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think around college, some Mass Effect. College probably where we'd stop. And then later, maybe we want to take a break and listen to something that's not that bad. Maybe we read some things. Thanks for listening. Let me know in the comments if you have thoughts about what you'd like to hear next. I should probably actually just make, like, what do you call it? A voting thing. A thing where people can vote on the Discord. Maybe next time I'll look through our options and post a couple of things we could choose from, and folks can decide what they want to listen to. Thanks again, and I'm so sorry, and why did you do this to me? Goodbye, everyone.